My name is Sanjeev Gupta. I am the Deputy Director of the Fiscal Affairs Department of the IMF. Among various things, I also oversee the work of the department on low-income countries and also on the budget systems in the membership. So that sort of reflects my mandate on the public financial management issues, and because I also deal with the low-income countries, I was asked to work with Marcus on the issues of fragile states. And so that's how we came up with this idea of having a joint conference. We feel that this conference was a good idea because there are a number of countries with this kind of characteristics. Incidentally, the IMF does not have a definition of fragile states. We do support countries which are in that state, but we do not have a classification. And so unlike DFID and World Bank and some other players, we help countries based on their underlying characteristics and not based on some classification. So we agreed with Marcus that this was a very good idea to have a conference jointly with ODI, which would then focus on some of the key challenges that are facing fragile states in the public financial management and aid effectiveness. The number of issues have been discussed in the past in this area. So we all knew what the problems are. And what was striking is that despite the fact that some of these problems that we have seen are well known, not much has happened in this area. And so the question in our mind was, here are donors, here are the countries, and there are the international financial institutions. Despite the fact that they know what the issues are, they have not acted on them. And so this was an issue for us. Why is it none of these actors have done anything to resolve the problems that some of these fragile states are facing? So this was for us the major question, and that's what I did in my presentation yesterday, is to lay out some of the issues on which everybody has said there is a problem, and then the question that we were posing this audience is that, tell us why there has been no response. First, do we still agree with these issues? Are we missing something from this agenda? And so what happened now is that in this meeting we have seen that many of those issues are still there. In fact, most of them are still valid, but there is an emphasis now to cut out some of these problems, to make sure that some key players act on them. So that there is a change in the thinking now as a result of this meeting. We feel that some areas we can have countries focus more on. We can have donors do less of certain other things, and some of the things which international financial institutions need to change, those are the issues they should now start addressing. So we've been able to identify issues in that way, and we are hoping that moving forward them in different fora with the countries, with aid agencies, to see if there is any movement. These are very complex issues. We can't really expect quick answers but the idea is to at least start raising them the right fora so that we can see some progress. There were one or two surprises. One is the concern of the recipient countries, the fragile states, about the procurement requirements of the donor agencies. We didn't really know that they were so onerous for them that they wanted some kind of relief from those requirements. While these do impose heavy burden on the countries, at the same time we understand why the institutions impose those requirements, because they have to answer to their shareholders that the money is used for intended purposes. So there is this tension, but it came out quite clearly in the discussions. And this is an issue which the donors will have to address in some fashion. So that's something which we didn't really know as much when we started, and it came out in the discussions. We would do everything possible, as I said, to disseminate those conclusions, whether it is among the donors, whether it is among the international financial institutions. The idea would be through dissemination, through greater discussion with the key players, we can expect some change down the line. As I said, some of the issues are a bit complex, and quick results are not going to come about in a short period of time, but at least we can start making some push for a change. And possibly in some areas, what we should sort of emphasize more, the qualitative changes can start to take place much sooner. PFM reforms are important everywhere. They are more important for fragile states because they are very much linked to the service delivery. Ultimately, the money has to pass through those systems to the school teachers, to the doctors and other service providers. And if the system doesn't work, then service provision is affected. Similarly, if you are looking to reconstruct or rebuild infrastructure, again it's the systems which have to function to be able to pass through the money. Of course, you can bypass those systems, as some donors do, and do everything outside those systems. But there is a basic problem with that, which is that you don't really make the country self-reliant. You don't develop the capacity of the country ultimately to be able to stand on its own feet. So that's why the PFM systems are important. They're also important for another reason, They're important because there's a big discussion about leakages. So good PFM systems can ensure that the leakage is less and the money sort of reaches the intended users. I think it would be hard to say in absolute terms that this is the most important. I think what we've agreed here is that in case of fragile states, we need to sequence these reforms in a certain way, taking into account the starting position of the country, because starting position of a country X is going to be different from that of Y. And in some cases, we would do things in a very rudimentary way. In other cases, we may do them in a slightly advanced manner. So it would depend from country to country.